The Great Council chamber on Nexus Prime buzzed with quiet conversations. Representatives from 43 different species sat in their assigned seats, waiting for the daily meeting to begin. The massive dome above them showed stars and planets spinning slowly in a display of the known galaxy. Krita adjusted her breathing apparatus and looked at her datapad. Today was her turn to give the report on primitive worlds. She had been watching these worlds for over 20 years now. Most of them were boring. Species that had just discovered fire, or maybe basic tools. Only one world on her list showed any real promise: Earth. The third planet in a system the locals called Sol. The council leader, a tall being named Vorth, called for attention. His voice echoed through the chamber as representatives stopped their conversations and turned toward the center platform. "We begin today with reports on developing worlds," Vorth announced. "Krita of Theta Centauri will present her findings." Krita stood and activated her display. A blue and green planet appeared in the air above the platform. White clouds swirled around its surface, and small gray objects orbited nearby. "This is Earth," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "Population, approximately 8 billion. The species calls itself human. They have been under observation for 600 of their years." A few representatives looked up with mild interest. Most continued reading their own reports. "Current technology level remains primitive," Krita continued, reading from her notes. "They have achieved basic spaceflight using chemical rockets. Several space stations orbit their planet. They have sent small probes to nearby worlds in their system." She changed the display to show images of human cities, their machines, and their spacecraft. The spacecraft looked tiny compared to even the smallest ships in the Council fleet. "They have discovered nuclear energy," she said, "both for power and weapons. This caused some concern 50 years ago. But they have not destroyed themselves as predicted." Representative Zolak from the hegemony raised one of his 4 arms. "Do they show any signs of faster-than-light travel?" "None," Krita replied. "Their fastest ships barely reach 1% of light speed. They seem completely unaware that other intelligent species exist." "What about their social development?" asked another representative. Krita scrolled through her data. "They remain divided into many competing groups called nations. They have frequent conflicts, though these have become smaller in recent decades. They show remarkable diversity in their cultures and languages." "Primitive," muttered Representative Thys, "still fighting among themselves instead of uniting their species." "Actually," Krita said carefully, "their diversity might be a strength. They solve problems in many different ways. Their rate of technological development is quite fast for a pre-contact species." Vorth looked impatient. "What is your recommendation?" "Continue observation," Krita said, though she felt uncertain. "Perhaps consider first contact in another 1,000 years, when they have developed proper space travel." Several representatives nodded. This was the standard procedure. Wait until a species could travel between stars, then make contact. It had worked well for thousands of years. "They seem harmless enough," said Representative Cole, "trapped on one little planet, playing with chemical rockets. What could they possibly do?" The chamber filled with quiet laughter. Even Krita smiled, though something bothered her about the whole situation. She had been studying humans for decades, and they surprised her more than she liked to admit. "Very well," Vorth said. "Continue standard observation. Next report." Krita gathered her data and sat down. Around her, the other representatives discussed trade routes, diplomatic missions, and resource allocation. The humans were forgotten as soon as her presentation ended. But Krita could not stop thinking about them. She had watched them build their first space station, land on their moon, and send robots to other planets. Every time the Council predicted they would fail or destroy themselves, they found a way to succeed. There was something about humans that did not fit the normal patterns. Most species followed predictable paths to space travel. develop better materials, build bigger rockets, slowly expand to nearby worlds. Humans seem to skip steps, finding unexpected solutions to problems. Their space stations used strange designs that should not work but did. Their robots on other planets lasted far longer than predicted. Their computer technology advanced faster than their physical engineering, which was unusual. "Attention all representatives," a voice suddenly announced through the chamber. It was the emergency communication system. "We have received urgent reports from the Outer Rim territories." The pleasant atmosphere in the chamber changed instantly. Everyone looked up at the communication screens that appeared around the dome. "Unknown vessels have been detected at the edge of Sector 7. The voice continued. "They do not respond to standard identification requests. All Outer Rim stations are advised to maintain alert status." Representative Thys stood up. "What kind of vessels? Pirates? Raiders?" "Unknown," came the reply. "The ships are very large, but they do not match any designs in our databases. They appear to be using advanced stealth technology." Krita felt a cold sensation run through her body. Advanced stealth technology meant a civilization with very sophisticated abilities. Only the most developed species in the galaxy had such things. "Could they be from the restricted sectors?" asked Representative Cole. "Negative. All restricted species are accounted for. These vessels are completely unknown." The chamber buzzed with worried conversations. Unknown advanced species were rare and usually dangerous. Most of the galaxy had been explored and mapped. Finding someone new with high technology was frightening. "Continue monitoring," Vorth ordered. "Increase security at all border stations. Send scout ships to investigate." As the emergency session began, Krita looked again at her data on Earth. Something nagged at her mind. The timing seemed too strange. For 600 years, humans had been trapped on their planet. Now, mysterious advanced ships appeared from nowhere. But that was impossible. Humans barely had chemical rockets. They could not even reach their nearest star. There was no way they could have anything to do with unknown vessels in distant space. Still, the feeling would not go away. In all her years of studying primitive species, she had learned one important thing. When something seemed too convenient to be coincidence, it usually was not coincidence at all. The alarm systems throughout Nexus Prime began to sound as more reports came in. The unknown ships were not just at the edge of one sector. They were appearing all around the Outer Rim, in perfect coordination. Whatever was coming, it was big, organized, and completely unknown to the Galactic Council. Krita gathered her data on Earth and headed for her private office. She had a feeling she was going to need to study those primitive humans much more carefully. The first attack came at Kepler Station, 3 days after the council meeting. Krita was reviewing her files on Earth when the emergency broadcasts began flooding all communication channels. "Mayday, Mayday. This is Kepler Station." The voice cracked through static. "We are under attack by unknown vessels. They are eating our station." Krita dropped her datapad and rushed to her communication center. The main screen showed a live feed from Kepler Station's emergency cameras. What she saw made her heart skip several beats. Massive ships shaped like twisted organic creatures surrounded the mining station. They were not firing weapons. Instead, they extended long tendrils that touched the station's hull. Wherever the tendrils made contact, the metal simply dissolved. The ships were consuming the station piece by piece, turning solid matter into part of themselves. "Council emergency session now," announced the alarm systems throughout Nexus Prime. 20 minutes later, every representative sat in the council chamber, watching the same horrifying footage. Kepler Station was completely gone. In its place floated dozens of new enemy ships, each one larger than before. "Analysis report," demanded Vorth. The chief military advisor, General Korex, stood up with his data tablet shaking in his hands. "We have never seen anything like this. The enemy ships appear to be completely organic. They consume matter and use it to grow or reproduce. What about the population of Kepler Station? Asked Representative Thiss. 40,000 mining workers and their families, Corex replied quietly. No survivors detected. The chamber fell silent. 40,000 beings dead in less than an hour. Defense fleet status? Asked Vorth. All available ships are moving toward the outer rim, Corex said. But sir, we estimate the enemy force at over 200 vessels and growing. Our fleet has 80 ships ready for combat. More reports began streaming in. The enemy had attacked 3 more systems simultaneously. Gamma Station, the research outpost at Wolf, 359, and the agricultural world of New Harvest, all sent out desperate calls for help before their communications went dark. They are coordinated, observed Representative Cole. This is not random raiding. This is invasion. But invasion by whom? Demanded Thiss. Where did they come from? Krita stood up slowly. May I see the tactical display of the attacks? Corex activated the star map. Red markers showed the 4 attack sites, all on the outer edge of Council space. Green markers showed the positions of Council defense fleets. The pattern suggests they came from outside our galaxy, Krita said, studying the display. But that means they traveled millions of light years to reach us. Why would anyone do that? Asked Vorth. Before anyone could answer, new alarms sounded. More red markers appeared on the tactical display. Then more. Within minutes, 27 Council worlds were under attack. They are not just invading, whispered Representative Cole. They are consuming everything. Every world they touch becomes more of them. The next few hours brought only bad news. The Council defense fleet engaged the enemy near Tau Ceti and lost badly. The organic ships adapted to every weapon used against them. Energy beams that worked in the first battle became useless in the second. Missiles that destroyed enemy ships in one system had no effect in another. They learn, reported Admiral Vex from the surviving flagship. Every time we attack, they change to defend against it. Every time we change tactics, they adapt faster. General Corex updated the tactical display. Half the outer rim was now red. Enemy forces were advancing steadily toward the core systems. Evacuation protocols are in effect, he announced. All civilians in threatened sectors should retreat to core worlds immediately. Krita watched the display with growing horror. Her home system, Theta Centauri, sat directly in the path of the advancing enemy, her family, her friends. How long do we have? She asked. At current rate of advance, Corex calculated, they will reach the inner systems in 6 days. Nexus Prime in 10 days. What about reinforcements? Demanded Vorth. Can we call on the hegemony fleets? The Federation? Already done, Corex replied. Every allied fleet in the galaxy is moving to help. But sir, even combined, we have fewer than 300 ships. Representative Thiss stood up with her data pad. I have been analyzing the enemy technology. These ships are not just organic. They appear to be controlled by a single intelligence. A hive mind. How do we fight a hive mind? Asked Call. We do not. Thiss said grimly. In all recorded history, no one has ever defeated a true hive mind species. They coordinate perfectly, learn instantly, and never make the same mistake twice. The chamber filled with frightened whispers. Species that had been enemies for centuries were now calling each other for help. Old conflicts meant nothing when facing extinction. Krita looked at the tactical display again. Her worlds were 3 days away from enemy contact. 3 days to say goodbye to everyone she loved. Wait, said a technician monitoring long-range sensors. I am detecting new ships entering our space. More enemy vessels? Asked Vorth. No, sir. Unknown configuration. They are approaching from the direction of Sol system. Every head in the chamber turned toward Krita. Sol system meant Earth. Earth meant humans with chemical rockets. That is impossible, said Representative Thys. Earth species cannot even reach their nearest star. The technician checked his readings twice. Sir, I am detecting 12 very large vessels. They are moving at significant fraction of light speed. They will reach Nexus Prime in 4 hours. Show me, ordered Vorth. The main display changed to show space near Earth's solar system. 12 massive shapes moved steadily through the darkness. They were larger than any ships in the Council database. Could these be more enemy vessels? Asked Cole nervously. Unknown, replied the technician. But sir, they are broadcasting standard Council identification codes in perfect galactic standard language. Krita stared at the display. Something impossible was happening. Earth was supposed to be home to primitive humans who barely knew other species existed. Now massive ships were coming from Earth's direction, speaking galactic standard. Analysis of the ships? Demanded Vorth. Very advanced technology, reported another technician. Energy signatures unlike anything in our database. They appear to have some kind of stealth capability we cannot understand. Are you saying, Krita asked slowly, that these ships have been hidden near Earth this whole time? Unknown, came the reply. But ma'am, the stealth technology would have to be incredibly advanced to hide ships this large from our long-range sensors. The chamber buzzed with confusion and fear. Enemy ships were consuming the galaxy. Unknown advanced vessels were approaching from primitive Earth. Nothing made sense anymore. Menting. Sir, called out the communications officer. The unknown ships are requesting permission to approach Nexus Prime. They say they wish to help defend against the invasion. Vorth looked around the chamber at his fellow representatives. They faced extinction by an unstoppable enemy. Mysterious help from impossible ships might be their only chance. Grant permission, he decided, and prepare to find out what Earth has been hiding from us. Captain Jin So-yoon stood on the bridge of the Dreadnought Indomitable and watched Nexus Prime grow larger on the main screen. The massive space station looked exactly like the intelligence reports had described, but seeing it in person still impressed her. 12 billion inhabitants, reported Commander Martinez from the sensor station. Multiple species, advanced technology, beautiful architecture, and under attack by something that wants to eat them all, Jin replied. She had read the reports about the organic ships, but the reality was worse than expected. Any sign of the enemy fleet? Jin. Long-range sensors show them advancing through the outer rim, replied Lieutenant Kim. They will reach this system in approximately 8 hours. Jin nodded. 8 hours to convince the Galactic Council that Earth was not what they thought it was. 8 hours to reveal secrets that humanity had kept for over 2 centuries. Open a channel to Nexus Prime, she ordered. Channel open, Captain, reported the communications officer. Jin straightened her uniform and faced the main screen. In a few seconds, she would become the first human to officially speak with galactic civilization. This is Captain Jin So-yoon of the Earth vessel Indomitable, she said in perfect galactic standard. We are requesting permission to approach and assist in defense against the invasion force. Silence filled the bridge as they waited for a response. Jin could imagine the shock in the council chamber. Humans were supposed to be primitive creatures who barely knew other species existed. Earth vessel Indomitable, came the reply from a shaking voice. This is Nexus Prime Flight Control. Please explain how you are speaking galactic standard. We have been listening to your communications for a very long time, Jin replied calmly. Permission to approach? Another pause. Then a different voice, more formal and controlled. This is Council Leader Vorth. Captain Jin, your species is supposed to be confined to your home planet. How do you possess advanced spacecraft? Jin smiled slightly. With respect, Council Leader, your information about my species is out of date. Very out of date. Captain, Lieutenant Kim called quietly. I am detecting Council warships moving to intercept us. Understood, Jin replied. Council Leader Vorth, please instruct your ships to maintain distance. We are here to help, but we will defend ourselves if threatened. Captain, Vorth said carefully, your ships are larger than anything in our fleet. How is this possible? Because, Jin said, humanity has not been sitting quietly on Earth for the past 200 years. We have been building, learning, and preparing for exactly this kind of threat. The main screen changed to show the tactical display. 12 human dreadnoughts moved in perfect formation toward Nexus Prime. Each ship was nearly 2 kilometers long and bristled with weapons that the Council had never seen before. Impossible, whispered another voice over the channel. Our long-range sensors never detected any human expansion. That is because we did not want to be detected, Jin explained. We developed stealth technology specifically to avoid your notice. Why? Demanded Vorth. Why hide from us? Jin considered her words carefully. Because we were not ready for galactic politics. We needed time to grow strong enough to stand as equals, not as primitives begging for protection. And now you think you are ready? The voice belonged to someone new, someone with a skeptical tone. Now we are necessary, Jin corrected. Your enemy is consuming everything in its path. Your fleets cannot stop it. We can. How can you possibly know that? Asked Vorth. Because we have been watching this invasion for 3 months, Jin replied. We tracked the enemy fleet from outside the galaxy. We know what they are and how they work. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. Not only had humans been secretly expanding through space, they had detected the invasion before anyone else. Captain, reported Lieutenant Kim. Enemy scouts have entered the outer system. Long-range sensors show the main fleet 6 hours behind them. Copy that, Jin replied. She turned back to the communication screen. Council Leader Vorth, we can discuss human expansion later. Right now, you need our help to survive. What do you propose? Asked Vorth. A joint defense of this system, Jin said. Your ships and ours, working together, but we coordinate the battle plan. Why should you coordinate? Demanded the skeptical voice. Because we know how to fight this enemy, Jin replied firmly. Your ships have been losing because you fight like individuals. The enemy is a hive mind. They coordinate perfectly. You need to do the same. And you can teach us this? Asked Vorth. We already know this, Jin said. Human military doctrine is based on coordination and adaptation. It is how we fight. The main screen changed to show the approaching human fleet in detail. Each ship moved with perfect precision, maintaining formation while adapting to the gravitational fields around Nexus Prime. Your ships, observed someone over the channel. They move like they are controlled by a single mind. End quote. Not controlled, Jin corrected. Coordinated. Every captain knows the plan. Every ship supports the others. We fight as one fleet, not as individual vessels. And you believe this will work against the invasion force? I know it will work, Jin replied confidently. We tested our tactics against their scouts 3 months ago. We destroyed them completely. Shocked silence filled the communication channel. Finally, Vorth spoke again. Captain Jin, will you come aboard Nexus Prime? I think the full council needs to hear what you have to say. Negative, Jin replied. My place is on my ship during battle. But I will send my science officer to explain our technology and tactics. Dr. Elena Vasquez, reporting for transport, announced a voice from behind Jin. Jin turned to see her chief science officer approaching with a data case. Dr. Vasquez had developed most of the technology that made human expansion possible. Doctor, Jin said, explain to them what we learned about the enemy, and show them what our quantum weapons can do. Yes, Captain, Dr. Vasquez replied with a small smile. As the transport prepared to take Dr. Vasquez to Nexus Prime, Jin turned back to the main screen. The enemy scouts were moving deeper into the system. In a few hours, the real battle would begin. All ships, she announced over the fleet channel. Prepare for combat. Enemy contact in 5 hours. Around Nexus Prime, 12 human dreadnoughts moved into battle formation. Their quantum weapons powered up with a deep humming sound that seemed to vibrate through space itself. On the station, billions of aliens watched the human ships with mixture of fear and hope. Everything they thought they knew about Earth had just been proven wrong. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, an enemy fleet that had consumed entire galaxies was about to learn that humanity was not as helpless as it appeared. Krita floated in the observation deck of the Indomitable, staring out at the holographic display that showed human space. What she saw made her question everything she thought she knew about the galaxy. 47 star systems, Doctor, Elena Vasquez said calmly, pointing to the glowing points of light. But how? Krita whispered. Our sensors never detected any of this. Dr. Vasquez smiled and gestured to another display. This is why. The hologram changed to show a strange device that looked like a twisted piece of metal and crystal. Quantum stealth generator, Dr. Vasquez explained. Every human ship, station, and colony has one. They bend space around us, making us invisible to most sensors. That is impossible, Krita said. Quantum technology like that would require centuries of research. It took us 150 years, Dr. Vasquez agreed. We started working on it the day we detected your first observation probe. Krita turned to stare at the human scientist. You knew we were watching you? Of course, Dr. Vasquez said with amusement. Your probe was not very subtle. We detected it within hours of its arrival in our solar system. Then why did you not contact us? Dr. Vasquez sat down and activated another holographic display. This one showed Earth's history from space. Look at your own records of human development, she said. What did you observe? Krita thought back to her reports. Wars, conflicts, division into competing nations. Exactly. Dr. Vasquez nodded. Would you have trusted a species like that? With galactic technology? Probably not, Krita admitted. Neither would we, Dr. Vasquez said. So we decided to grow up quietly. Learn about the galaxy without being noticed. Become strong enough to stand as equals when we were ready. The display changed to show human colonies on distant worlds. Cities built into asteroids, orbital farms around gas giants, research stations in the empty space between stars. You have been building an empire, Krita said with growing amazement. Not an empire, Dr. Vasquez corrected. A civilization. One based on cooperation instead of conquest. Captain Jin Seo-yun appeared on the bridge communication screen. Dr. Vasquez, we need you back on the bridge. Admiral Park's fleet has arrived. Admiral Park? Krita asked. Fleet Admiral Park Min-ho, Dr. Vasquez explained as they headed for the bridge. He commands our deep space fleets. Very experienced officer. When they reached the bridge, the main screen showed something that took Krita's breath away. Hundreds of human ships were dropping out of hyperspace around Nexus Prime. Not just dreadnoughts, but carriers, destroyers, support ships, and vessels she could not identify. Status report, Captain Jin called out. Admiral Park's fleets are taking position, Lieutenant Kim replied. Total human force now stands at 347 vessels. Krita stared at the tactical display. The humans had brought more ships than the entire Galactic Council possessed. How many fleets do you have? She asked Dr. Vasquez. Enough. Dr. Vasquez replied simply. The main screen changed to show a distinguished-looking human male in a crisp military uniform. Admiral Park, Min-ho, had gray hair and tired eyes that seemed to see everything. Captain Jin, Admiral Park said with a slight smile. Good to see you again. I trust our galactic friends are adjusting well to the situation. Still in shock, I think, Jin replied, glancing at Krita. Admiral Park nodded politely to Krita. Ambassador Krita, I have read your reports on humanity. Very thorough work, though somewhat outdated. You know my reports? Krita asked in surprise. We have been monitoring Council communications for decades, Admiral Park explained. Your observations helped us understand how the galaxy viewed us. Where? This is incredible, Krita said, still trying to process everything. You have been watching us while we watched you. Knowledge is survival, Admiral Park said. We learned that from studying galactic history. The species that survive are those that know their neighbors. Dr. Vasquez activated her data display. Admiral, I was explaining our quantum technology to Ambassador Krita. Ah, yes, Admiral Park said with interest. Dr. Vasquez, would you mind showing our guest the real breakthrough? Dr. Vasquez smiled and brought up a new holographic display. This one showed the strange organic ships of the invasion fleet. The enemy calls itself the Void Swarm, she explained. They are indeed a hive mind, as your scientists guessed. But that is also their weakness. How so? Krita asked. Hive minds depend on quantum entanglement to coordinate across vast distances, Dr. Vasquez said. The individual ships are connected through quantum fields that allow instant communication. And you can disrupt these fields? Krita guessed. Better than that, Dr. Vasquez replied. We can sever them completely. She activated a new display showing human quantum weapons. They looked like elegant works of art, rather than instruments of war. Quantum disruption cannons, Dr. Vasquez explained. They do not just block the hive-mind connection. They destroy it permanently. Admiral Park leaned forward. Ambassador, the Void Swarm has consumed 12 galaxies before reaching yours. They have never been stopped, because no one understood their weakness. But you do? Krita asked. We studied them for 3 months before they reached galactic space, Admiral Park replied. We tracked their movement, analyzed their technology, and developed countermeasures. Why? Krita asked. Why help us? You could have stayed hidden and let the swarm pass through our galaxy. Admiral Park was quiet for a moment, looking out at the stars. Because isolation is not survival, he said finally. No species can live alone forever. Eventually, you need friends. And you want us as friends? Krita asked. We want to be part of the galaxy, Captain Jin said. As equals. As partners in building something better than what came before. The tactical display suddenly flashed red. Lieutenant Kim looked up from her console with a grim expression. Admiral, Captain, enemy main fleet has entered the system. Estimated force of 800 vessels. Admiral Park nodded calmly. Time to put our theories to the test. All ships, prepare for battle. Admiral, Krita said urgently. Are you certain your weapons will work? Admiral Park smiled, and for the first time, Krita saw the confidence of a species that had quietly prepared for this moment for 2 centuries. Ambassador, he said. Humanity has been fighting impossible odds since we first looked up at the stars. We do not plan to stop now. And you. Around Nexus Prime, hundreds of human ships moved into battle formation. Their quantum weapons powered up with a sound like singing crystal. The Void Swarm had never faced quantum disruption technology before. They were about to learn that some species could not be consumed. The space around Nexus Prime erupted in brilliant flashes of light as 800 Void Swarm vessels dropped out of hyperspace. Each organic ship was the size of a small moon, covered in writhing tendrils that reached hungrily toward the space station. Captain Jin Seo-yun stood calmly on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the enemy fleet deploy. Around her, human and council ships formed a defensive line that seemed pitifully small compared to the approaching swarm. Enemy fleet formation suggests they plan to surround us completely, reported Lieutenant Kim. Standard consumption pattern. Let them try, Jin replied. All ships report weapons charged and ready, Dr. Vasquez confirmed from her science station. Quantum field mapping is complete. Admiral Park appeared on the main screen from his flagship, the Soul. Behind him, Krita could be seen working alongside human officers to coordinate with the Council fleets. All ships, this is Admiral Park, his voice carried across the fleet channels. Remember, we are not just fighting for ourselves today. We are fighting for the future of this galaxy. Jin nodded and opened the channel to her own ship. Crew of the Indomitable. Today, we reveal to the galaxy what humanity truly is. Not primitive, not helpless. We are protectors. The first wave of swarm ships reached weapons range. Their bioweapons launched streams of acid and living projectiles that could eat through any known armor. The Council ships fell back, their shields flaring under the assault. Human vessels, this is Council Leader Vorth, came an urgent transmission. Our weapons are having no effect. You must retreat while you can. Negative, Jin replied calmly. All human ships begin quantum disruption sequence. The space around the human fleet suddenly filled with crystalline light. Every human ship fired their quantum weapons simultaneously, sending beams of pure energy toward the swarm vessels. The effect was immediate and stunning. The swarm ships, which had moved in perfect coordination moments before, suddenly began to drift apart. Their attacks became random and unfocused. Direct hit on the quantum entanglement network, Dr. Vasquez reported with excitement. The hive-mind connection is severing. Oat. On the main screen, Krita watched in amazement as the unstoppable swarm fleet began to fall apart. Individual ships crashed into each other, their navigation systems confused without central coordination. Impossible, whispered someone from the Council ships. They are just stopping. Not stopping, Jin corrected. Thinking for themselves for the first time in millions of years. Some of the swarm ships began firing at each other. Their individual minds panicked and confused. Others tried to retreat, but could not coordinate their movements. A few simply drifted in space, their crews overwhelmed by sudden independence. Phase 2, Admiral Park commanded. All ships, target the command vessel. Deep in the center of the swarm fleet, a massive ship nearly 10 kilometers long pulsed with dark energy. This was the primary node, the central mind that had controlled the entire invasion. That is their command ship, Dr. Vasquez explained to Krita. If we destroy it, the surviving swarm ships will be completely cut off from each other. Jin turned to her weapons officer. Commander Martinez, target the command ship with maximum quantum disruption. Target locked, Martinez replied. All batteries ready. Fire. The Indomitable unleashed every quantum cannon it possessed. Beams of crystalline energy reached across space to strike the command vessel. Around the fleet, hundreds of other human ships did the same. The command ship tried to defend itself, launching clouds of smaller vessels and deploying energy shields, but quantum disruption weapons passed through conventional defenses like they were not there. Direct hits across the entire target, reported Dr. Vasquez. The command ship's quantum field is collapsing. On the screen, the massive vessel began to convulse. Internal explosions rippled across its surface as the hive mind that had controlled billions of creatures for millennia finally died. Command vessel is breaking apart, Lieutenant Kim announced. The death of the command ship sent shockwaves through the remaining swarm fleet. Ships that had been trying to coordinate attacks suddenly stopped moving. Others began fleeing in random directions, their individual crews terrified and alone for the first time. Council fleets, Admiral Park announced, you may begin cleanup operations. The threat is neutralized. As Council ships moved in to deal with the scattered swarm vessels, Jin found herself standing next to Krita on the observation deck. Together, they watched the debris of the invasion fleet drift past. How did you know it would work? Krita asked quietly. Because we understood what they really were, Jin replied. The swarm was not evil. They were afraid. 80. Afraid? Dr. Vasquez joined them, carrying a datapad with her analysis of the swarm technology. The swarm species evolved from social insects, she explained. Millions of years ago, they gave up individual thought for the safety of the hive mind. They consume other civilizations because they fear being alone. And now they are alone, Krita observed, watching the scattered ships flee into deep space. Yes, Jin said. But they are also free. For the first time in their history, they can choose their own path. 3 months later, Krita stood on the observation deck of a transport ship approaching New Sol, the capital world of human space. Through the transparent aluminum windows, she could see a beautiful planet with sprawling cities that seemed to grow from the landscape itself. Welcome to New Sol, Captain Jin said, joining her at the window. Jin now wore the uniform of a joint Human Council exploration fleet, the first of its kind. It is beautiful, Krita said honestly. How many people live here? About 12 million, Jin replied. Humans, yes, but also refugees from dozens of species. We have been welcoming galactic immigrants for 50 years. I thought you wanted to remain isolated. We wanted to remain independent. Jin corrected. There is a difference. We built our civilization to welcome anyone who shares our values. They walked through the transport ship toward the docking port. Through other windows, Krita could see human ships working alongside vessels from every species in the Council. The galaxy was rebuilding, stronger than before. What happens now? Krita asked. Now we explore, Jin said with a smile. Together. The galaxy is full of wonders we have never seen, and threats we have never faced. More threats? Always, Jin replied cheerfully. But also more opportunities, more friends, more chances to build something better. As their transport docked with the orbital station above New Sol, Krita looked out at the stars. For 600 years, she had thought she understood the galaxy. Humans were primitive, trapped on one world, harmless and ignorant. She had never been more wrong about anything in her life, and she had never been happier to be wrong. In the docking bay, human children played alongside young beings from a dozen different species. They laughed together, learned together, and dreamed of the day when they would explore the galaxy together. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Never assume that silence means weakness. Sometimes, the quiet ones are simply waiting for the right moment to show what they can really do. And humanity had been very, very quiet for a very long time.